Greetings. I'm Steve Cole, the pastor of the First Methodist Church in Oswego, Kansas, and the West Mineral Methodist Church in West Mineral, Kansas. And today we're going to be having a sermon for November 19th, 2023, as we get ready for Thanksgiving again this year. And these actually 3 verses, but they're very short verses. Out of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 16 to 18. Be joyful always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. May God add a blessing to the reading, the hearing, and the understanding of His Word. Not a very long passage, but it has a lot of stuff there. Instructions for us. And I remember back when I was in college, we had a guy, I'll call him Butch. That wasn't actually his name, but, I want to try to keep from using people's real names. But anyway, Butch was always kind of a grumpy guy. If you saw him first thing in the morning and said, "Good morning, Butch," he'd say, "What's so good about it?" And he's just kind of grumpy, and he was kind of grumpy like that. Yeah, once in a while he was nice and friendly later on in the day, but not first thing in the morning, and that's for sure. And there's another guy, we'll call him Mike. Mike was kind of happy-go-lucky. You saw Mike first thing in the morning, he'd say, "Good morning" back and say something nice. And he's Mike always seemed to be cheerful. Seemed to be easygoing and cheerful and laughed easily. Yeah. Now, both of these guys lived at the same place, experienced it with the same people, had the same experiences and everything, but one guy was kind of grumpy, and the other guy was kind of happy-go-lucky. Now, what's the difference there? Well, part of it is just the way they were, part of the way they're made up, but also it's a matter of their attitude, right? How they thought. And not to say that, the one guy was a bad person and the other one was a good person. It's just kind of the way they were. Now, we look at this passage that we had today. Paul tells the people, be joyful always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. Wow. This is God's will for you. To be joyful, to pray, to give thanks in all circumstances. Boy, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? And we sometimes think of people that are devout Christians as being glum and gloomy and yeah. But here it tells us to be joyful and to give thanks in all circumstances. Don't complain about everything, but pray about everything. I came across a little thing that kind of tells the difference between dogs and cats. Now, I know that some people are dog people and some people are cat people, but still, it's kind of an interesting little thing. And it came across that what if the dog could make a diary? What would be in a dog's diary? 8 a.m. Dog food, my favorite thing. 9:30 a.m. A car ride, my favorite thing. 9:40 a.m. A walk in the park, my favorite thing. 10:30 a.m. Got rubbed and petted, my favorite thing. At 12 o'clock, milk bones, my favorite thing. At 1 o'clock, played in the yard, my favorite thing. 3 o'clock, chased my tail, my favorite thing. 5 o'clock, dinner, my favorite thing. 7 o'clock, got to play ball, my favorite thing. 8 o'clock, wow, watch TV with my people, my favorite thing. And 11 o'clock, sleeping on the bed, my favorite thing. Dogs are just kind of like that. They're kind of happy-go-lucky and everything. They enjoy just about everything. Hey, great. Now, here's the cat's diary. Day 983 of my captivity. My captors continue to taunt me with bizarre little dangling objects. They dine lavishly on fresh meat, while the other inmates and I are fed hash or some sort of dry nuggets. Although I make my contempt for the rations perfectly clear, I nevertheless must eat something in order to keep up my strength. The only thing that keeps me going is my dream of escape. In an attempt to discuss them, I once again threw up on the carpet. Today I decapitated a mouse and dropped its headless body at their feet. I had hoped that this would strike fear in their hearts, since it clearly demonstrates my capabilities. However, they merely made condescending comments about what a good little hunter I am. There was some sort of assembly of the accomplices tonight. I was placed in solitary confinement for the duration of the event. However, I could hear the noises and the smell of the food. I have heard that my confinement was due to the power of allergies. I must learn what this means and how to use it to my advantage. Today I was almost successful in an attempt to assassinate one of my tormentors by weaving around his feet as he was walking. I must try this again tomorrow, but at the top of the stairs. I am convinced that the other prisoners here are flunkies and snitches. The dog receives special privileges. He is regularly released and seems to be more than willing to return. He is obviously a dimwit. The bird must be an informant. I observe him communicate with the guards regularly. I am certain that he reports my every move. My captors have arranged protective custody for him in an elevated cell, so he's safe for now. But the cat and the dog live in different places, don't they? Or actually live in the same place. And yet their outlook is that they have the same masters, yet the dog thinks everything's wonderful and enjoys life, while the cat acts as if it's a prisoner. This coming Thursday, we'll observe Thanksgiving again. For many of us, this will be just that, a day of Thanksgiving. We'll thank God. A day that we gather together with our family and eat large quantities of food, watch football games till our eyes pop out. And many of us will take time to thank God for the blessings we have for this time. Like the dog, we can say, oh boy, my favorite. Turkey, my favorite. Dressing, my favorite. Pumpkin pie, my favorite. Right? Yeah. But there'll be others that might complain and say, the turkey was dry, the gravy was lumpy, the potatoes were cold, I didn't get enough whipped cream on my pumpkin pie, or a big enough piece of pumpkin pie, and the football games had too many commercials, and those commentators are a bunch of idiots. You know? And why did Aunt Lucille have to show up? It's a matter of attitude, isn't it? And how we feel about it. But we're told to be joyful always, pray continually, and give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for us in Christ Jesus. To have an attitude of gratitude, right? It's kind of a cliche, but still. You know, there's an old hymn that for some reason isn't in our hymnal. And had to look around at some different old hymnals I've got to find it. It's called Count Your Blessings. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. And you can probably count it as a blessing that I didn't sing that for you. When we stop and think about it, we've got many blessings that we can think of. You know, we've got lots of things that our grandparents couldn't even have dreamed of having. You know, we go to the grocery store and there's an abundance of food of all kinds. You know, the produce section, there's all these fresh fruits and vegetables that are there in season and out of season. Now, for my grandparents, it was like you had fresh fruits and vegetables when it was grown in the garden, and it was that time of year that you could get them. You didn't have a... And I can remember them thinking that oranges were a special treat. And But now, of course, you get oranges anytime you want. Then they had meat. You go to the meat department. There's all kinds of different kinds of meat. Pork, beef, chicken, turkey, and lots of other things that's available in lots of different forms. My grandparents, back when they were younger, they had meat. Oh yes, they had cattle and maybe pigs, but they processed them themselves, and they didn't have freezers to store anything. It had to be the food. It had to be smoked or salted down to be able to keep it. So yeah, it was a much different situation for them back then. And they, not to mention the fact that they didn't have indoor plumbing. Wow, yeah. You imagine in the middle of the winter what that was probably like, having to go to the outhouse in the middle of the winter. Yeah, wow, yeah. And we have opportunities for young people today that they didn't have those opportunities. One of my grandfathers what he really wanted to do was to be a teacher. He was going to go, and be a coach. Of course, he wanted to do both. He wanted to go off to college, but they didn't have the money. They needed help on the farm. So Grandpa never did get to go. Because, college his choice was Kansas State, and Kansas State was like 50 miles away, which at that time, to get there, just get there was quite a thing, let alone be able to afford to go. And my other grandfather, right after they got married in 1929, just before the stock market crashed. No jobs. He ended up staying there on the farm because there was no jobs to go to. Well, yeah. Now, maybe that's what he wanted to do. I'm not sure, but that's where he ended up. Today, yeah, it's expensive to go to college. That's true. It is not cheap, but we have more opportunities. I mean, we've got community colleges that aren't that far away. There's also online classes that can be taken. In fact, I've known some people that have got their entire degree online. I mean, the choices aren't as good doing it that way as you would if you actually went. But we also, like I say, we've got community colleges not too far away. And Pittsburgh State isn't that far away. And there are loans available and grants, scholarships. So if someone really wants to get an education, it's available. It may take some time. It may take a little bit of effort, but it can be done. Those opportunities are there that were not there for my grandparents. Yeah. Healthcare. Yeah, it's expensive. But we have, oh my goodness gracious, we have clinics, hospitals available to us, drugstores close by to be able to get our medications. Or, like me, you get your medications through the mail. Hey, pretty simple. And that we have the ability to work through different illnesses that several years ago people didn't have the option of doing that. My dad a few years ago had bypass surgery, and no doubt extended his life for several years because of that. Had they not had that opportunity, may have died of a heart attack. So we have those things available to us. I have a grandmother that had to have a new heart valve put in when she was in her 60s. And they told her it would last probably 10 years. Well, guess what? She lived to be 94. And we have, cancer is still a major problem, but we have more treatments for cancer now than we've had in the past. We have lots of things available to us and lots of medications to help people live longer. So yeah, we've got a lot of things to be thankful for in this life. That if we have a house, a car, and enough money to get by, we can be thankful that we have those things available to us. And that's just a few of the things that we have to be thankful for over there. Probably many, many more that I came across a while back a diary of a woman that moved out west to homestead. That was not an easy life, homesteading, and yet she wrote in her diary all the things she was thankful for. Living in a sod house out on the prairie, and yet she was thankful for what she had. And we stop and think, some of those people, yes, it was a hard life, but for them, this was an opportunity to be able to have land that they couldn't get any other way, and a chance of being able to be self-sufficient and not have to, have a meager life. So yes, that was, even then, those people could be thankful. And we think of when Paul writes to the Thessalonians, first century, what life was like back then. It was very labor intensive, didn't have near the things available that we have today, and yet he, as I say, he writes those words to be joyful always and give thanks in all circumstances. Wow. Well, it's good that we can do that. And as we come to Thanksgiving, let us know that we do have a lot to be thankful for and not take things for granted. But thank God for the many blessings that we have. Well, thank you for spending some time with me today, and I hope that you'll have a very blessed Thanksgiving. Good day.